Good morning, Bin Bin.
Hey, Susan.
I'm gonna start sharing my screen.
Hello, everyone.
Morning, Akash. Good afternoon, Akash.
Yes, good morning to you guys.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Xinghe. So just to confirm the meeting time, so starting from this week, every week our meeting will be at 4:30 Redmond time, correct? So we're staying with the same time weekly for Series 1 and Series 2.
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. And I was reading the notes. So Jimmy is stepping off the maintainer role. Do we have a Amazon candidate that can take this from Jimmy?
As far as I know, I don't think so. Maybe Byron would be a good candidate. Maybe should reach out to him because he's been contributing a bit. But yeah, we'll need to reach out to them.
I see. So Byron is like, I see this PR for the AWS signer. Is he like a dev on the AWS side?
Yes, he's a dev on the AWS side. He actually had another PR, a couple PRs before this to update their auth provider as well. So he's been the latest contributor from the AWS side.
Nice. And is he like the long-term maintainer for the AWS scenario? Like, I just don't know if they go by project or.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how it works on their side. I do know that he's Seattle based, so timing wise, the meeting would work if he did decide to join. So
yeah, cool. And when's the last time he came to the community meeting?
Oh, it's probably been over a month now. I think the last time was when we were discussing the auth provider changes he was proposing. So
I see. Okay, well, look through this PR when we do the list. Okay, we have a few folks on the call now. Let's get started. Good morning, E.
Hi, Susan. Sorry for 3 minutes late. I spent some time using the Zoom account. Not sure what happened, but finally, yeah, I log in.
Yeah, no problem. All these remote meetings, there's like some setup time involved. We're just going to start working through our PR list. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Thanks. So this week, the focus would be the RC5 release that we're hoping to get out this week. There's 2 remaining PRs that we're tracking. So the first one is the certificate rotator. Bin, I think I've provided some comments, and Akash have also added some questions. Are we on track to merge maybe today or tomorrow?
Yeah, I can take a look today, and if those are not major comments, I can fix all of them today.
Oh, yeah, sounds good. I think my comments are mainly just validating that we've covered enough scenarios in the test matrix. And Akash has like a quick question about the deployment Helm hook. do you want to just add a quick note about why we added new annotations to the template?
Yeah, initially I didn't add this annotation, and so the deployment was just failed. So then I realized maybe I can just add this to avoid that. And maybe I can try again to see if I can avoid using the annotation.
Are these annotation related to the secret? Like, because I remember you mentioned there's a problem between the timing of loading the secret
Yes.
versus when Ratify installs.
Yeah, because firstly I added the annotation to the provider and the secret and the secret, and then deployment always failed, and it says that the Ratify pod already deployed, and so then I think maybe I should deploy the Ratify pod in the last step. So I add this hook to the deployment, and then it works.
Got it. So Akash, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think I'm sure there's some quirks of Helm that you're running into here, but just like generally, it's the case where the Helm hook, regardless of the weight, will always be executed before the non-annotated resources. That's my understanding. So I see that you put the weight as 10, so it should deploy, I guess, after all of the other hooks are complete. But if you removed it, my understanding was that the deployment will anyway run last because it isn't a hook. But if that's not is that not the behavior that you're seeing? It's installing before the other hook completes.
Yeah, I can check again later and let you know if it works.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, Binbin. Thanks, Akash. Yeah, so Binbin, let us know if we have any delays in this PR.
Yeah.
So the goal is to get it merged this week. Are you starting primary or backup on it?
I'm back up this week, so I should have some time to do it.
Okay, cool. Okay. The next PR is the fix for the workload identity refresh token. And yeah, thanks for the comment, Akash. Yes, I will look at the cosine code path and make sure that one uses the same method, and I will merge the evict and evict auth cache. So I've completed the long running test, like I've let the pod run for a day and validate that there's no issue getting a new refresh token. Is there any other scenario that I should validate?
That's the main one. Let's see, is there another one? I think the other one is maybe if you want to change the permissions on the identity itself and see what happens there, if you think it's worth to see if it regenerates.
So maybe the scenario can be the identity had access, and then I removed access.
Yes.
From the registry side. Do a verification, let it fail, and add the permission back, and then invoke another verification. Would that be the test?
Yes, that would be the test, and you would, that works. You could also do it via the audit functionality, so you could just have the pod succeed with the correct perms on the identity, and then you remove the identity, and then you'll see a failure in the audit log, audit loop, and then you add it back, and the next loop should succeed.
Got it. And how often is the audit?
The default is 1 minute, but you can also update the interval to run however often you want. So.
Yeah, sure. I'll try that. And just to understand the expectation, as soon as we removed access for the identity on ACR, ACR would immediately detect the ACR access token is invalid.
Yes, it would detect it's invalid. We should receive a 401 on the Ratify side, and then we should evict from the cache. And then subsequent attempts will continue to try to grab from the auth provider, but those will continue to return 401s until you re-add the correct role to the identity, and it should succeed and then cache the credential. So
Yep, got it. Yep, I'll try that out. And I think this PR is also failing like a code coverage check. So maybe I also need to extract the change in the workload identity.go. Maybe like extract this into a unit testable method.
sure, yeah, if we could do that just so we can get some more coverage on that. That sounds
Yeah, it's saying that like 149 and 154. Yeah, these lines are not covered. Like, does empty line count as well?
good. Not sure. Yeah, it's supposed to be smart enough not to, but I question how it actually calculates the project diff too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do feel after this additional check, like it is enforcing us to add more unit test, like because I frequently do not meet the bar and then have to go back and do more refactoring.
yes, same. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Actually, I have
additional-
also. Oh, I have
Go
the
ahead.
same question to my PR because
Yeah,
my PR involves some files like manager.go and
yeah,
server.go, and there is no unit test for them, and I feel it's also very difficult to
Yep.
like add the unit test, so the test coverage was decreasing in my PR.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if I
let's
should add some unit test, but I feel it might make. I don't know if we should add test because I checked the gatekeeper report and I didn't see they add the source test to the like some like main.go or server.go.
yeah, so are there files that we can exclude?
Probably. We'd have to discuss with other people why we would exclude them.
Yeah,
I don't even know if Gatekeeper has code cov, honestly.
Oh, let me check.
yeah.
I think a lot of projects don't.
Yeah, so if this becomes increasingly difficult, then it's time to let's review this requirement again. But I'm guessing like everyone right now is just living with it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we've had to do some creative reorganizing in order to meet the bar.
That's right. I like the creativeness here. Okay, so the next item on the actionable agenda, consolidate the logs from different sources and provide some common wrapped error message for debugging. Who did Bin, is that an issue you created, or do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I create those issues. Maybe we should talk about with E, and since this is something we just raised up, that we should do refactoring on the log and error so that we can provide more information to the new users. Otherwise, we have to like respond to their questions when, like, for example, if we have like new first-party users or other users, they might have some like similar issues. Oh, this one created by him.
I see. So Akash is working with Feynman on this one.
Oh, sorry. This is the Minikube issue. Yeah, so I was taking a quick look today. It's not easy to do this. It's not as easy as spinning up the registry container and then setting up the insecure flag on the Minikube start. I linked two different guides here. So the first way is if you're running your registry on your local computer and then you're setting up a Minikube cluster, that requires that you set up the correct routings to your Minikube cluster, because the Minikube cluster is basically a separate VM. So you need to expose the correct routes in your hosts file in that Minikube cluster as well. The other way is to actually deploy the registry inside Minikube, and then the problem becomes the reverse, where you have to point Docker to that registry inside the cluster. So both ways have their own challenges. There are walkthroughs for both, but I think key takeaway is that it's not great to do it this way, which is why kind is a lot nicer to use.
Yeah, I also gave a try on the Minikube last week, but it failed in the end.
Do we
Yeah.
have Ratify documentation that suggests to use kind? And maybe if we knew about this limitation, we can add it to our, like if you use Minikube, you can run into these set of issues.
But I feel Minikube might be more popular than Can.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Minikube feels like most people use that instead of kind. But in terms of this being like a Ratify problem, I feel like this is a more generic problem. We can point to guidance that exists there, but this is just a generic problem of setting up a registry locally that connects to your Kubernetes cluster. So I don't know if we need to like really dedicate documentation on our side saying, hey, this is how you do it, because it's not really a Ratify specific problem. But if others feel otherwise.
I feel go ahead.
Yeah, I think if it is not related to Ratify, but mainly how you install Minikube and configure local registry, then we don't need to spend time on it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Sorry.
We'll have this issue to track, and if people do run into it, I hope they can find like our previous discussion on this.
Okay. Previously, I thought this issue is related to what's being created. Can you switch to this one?
856.
Yeah. So this, I think it's this one is important because currently, if user has some issues, right, we should have a better way. I mean, for the first time they got the error message, they should understand what happened and what the reason behind it. This is the best thing that we can avoid many support cases later asking for troubleshooting. I think there are two parts related to it. One is that from the error message point of view, whether we can correctly report the specific reason for the errors. I'm not sure for all the cases we can report the reason clearly. This is one thing I think we may need to dig later. Another is related to the troubleshooting guide. So in case we have some known issues and we know some error message indicates some actions that the user can do, maybe we can add those into the troubleshooting guide to help the user to mitigate this issue. Another thing related to this is because we Ratify as a external data provider, right? So if there are some validation field, we provided the data to the policy engine, for example, Gatekeeper. So whether from gatekeeper point of view, they can correctly return this error message to the user so that they can know from the policy point of view.
Yeah, I agree. We can bring this up for triage for the next milestone. Does that sound good, Bin and Yi?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I also think it's could need effort over time because we may have a different troubleshooting cases popped up, right? So we could add those cases over time into the troubleshooting guide. But for the current the error message, error handling, so yeah, I think we can try it later to maybe to figure out different scenarios, use cases, some negative cases, or what's the current message, whether it is good enough. So I do think we needed to spend more time. So yeah, we can try it later and maybe create the subtasks related to this one.
Yeah, Bin, I think we can split this into two items, like one for like an overall design of how do we improve the error messages and like put them into different categories, and also another item for tracking, creating a TSG just for the documentation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Any other feedback on 856?
Sorry, Susan, I was running late as I'm not sure why my Zoom account was blocking for a while. So for this issue, I also encountered when I'm running Ratify with a local registry on some local Kubernetes distribution like Minikube. I think you have already discussed. Maybe I missed something. So could you?
Yeah, sure. Akash added some details to the issue. Akash, do you want to quickly summarize it?
Yeah, sure. Unfortunately, Feynman, this is not this is a known issue in general with Minikube. It's not the easiest to run a local registry. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through, primarily because you have to set up the correct routing on the host computer so that it connects with the cluster. And in the comment, I've laid out two different ways that you can do it. The first way is the way that you are going down, where you're setting up a registry on your host computer, and then you're trying to set up Minikube so it pulls from the local host. The other way is to actually deploy the registry inside the cluster, and then that gives the resources inside the cluster easier access to the registry. But on the flip side, when you're using the host tools like Docker or Notation or whatever to sign or to push to that registry, you have to, again, you do the reverse now. You have to set those routing up. So there's two walkthrough guides for that, but you'll notice that it's not as simple as one or two commands. There's a few things that you have to edit. So.
Okay, gotcha. So I will give those two suggestions a try. So actually my point is that I'm thinking we can improve the error messages like you discussed before. Can you scroll to the top? Yeah, please hang out here. Please scroll down a little bit. I think I have a small suggestion in this description. Yeah, I'll hang out here. So I'm not sure if Bin has mentioned that Ratify has different log sources, maybe from Notation Go, RSGO, and also Ratify itself. So when I was trying to debug the Ratify on some Kubernetes cluster distribution, I find I need to go to ORAS or Notation side to find the root cause when I'm looking at those error messages. So will the proposal in issue A56 add the custom wrapped logs solve this problem? And I'm not sure what is the comprehensive plan to solve the troubleshooting scenario. For example, how can users distinguish the source of those logs, and where can users find the troubleshooting guide? I know we are thinking to prepare a troubleshooting guideline for Ratify, and I'm not sure the comprehensive plan for the proposals from Bingbing.
Yeah, Feynman. So Bingbing created issue 856. So there's two tasks under this one. One is the dev work to improve these errors so the customer can look at the output and understand where the error is coming from and help them with the next step. And the other part is the documentation, where we could have some TSGs to guide the user further. So we're thinking about tagging this item for RC6 once we create the milestone. And then initially we'll, one of us would review the different source of error messages, what are their category, and then we'll come up with a design that would be the first step. Does that roadmap sound okay?
We also provide a something like the status code, the error status code that users can retrieve that code and find related solutions by using that status code.
Are you proposing Ratify should come with would generate our own system of error code?
Yeah, I'm thinking if we have a unified log outputs which consolidated the logs from different sources, then users will need to search those status codes and define which is the root cause of when they see the error messages. I'm thinking a unified solution for debugging those error messages from the logs.
Bingbing, is that in line?
Yeah, this current description is maybe just from the implementation side. I am not quite understand what does those functions mean, but I'm thinking from the user's perspective, we'll provide a unified error status code to help users locate the root cause when they see those error messages.
I feel if we can, for example, if we just define error struct, for example, in my in this issue, I said we can create some error get reference manifest, and if we export this error, and we can, so users can check those errors on the Go package website, and so it's something like an error code, but it's just the error struct, not the error code. For example, we have 401, 402, 403. So instead of a number, we just have an error string. So I think they are the same in terms of using or checking the error.
Yeah, actually, I think Sajay has a good summarize on this goal. I think we want to have a good set of maybe a series of error status code, or not code, just a list which help users understand what is the root cause for each error message. Some error messages might look very generic, and I cannot quickly locate those root cause when I was debugging Ratify on Minikube and the K3s. And also when I'm verifying those unsigned or unsigned signature, or the signature with expired certificate.
Yep, I've just opened up the link that Sajay shared in the chat window. So it looks like this is the error code that maybe this is the ORAS error code
This
set
is,
in the distribution spec.
yeah, this is standard distribution spec error codes. I mean, I'm just showing an example of how we can follow, like have a set of well-known error codes that we know we handle. And there's going to be a set that we don't handle, right? Like some registry is going to misbehave or something like that, or some verify is going to misbehave. So we could still have like a generic error where the error code is like basically it's underlying, but document the set somehow so that people don't guess when a referrer is failing, when the signature validation is failing, and things like that. We could probably like just start with a very small set and then kind of keep expanding the framework. I think that's what's missing, or maybe can. But to kind of like double down on Akash's point, is the local development environment to set it up on Minikube important? Is that something we need to document? Would be, I think that's a follow-up, and I think it's worth kind of considering if we want to do that.
I think Sajay gives a good example from the distribution spec. I would like to have a similar spreadsheet which lists some common status code for some common error messages.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestion. So what I'll do, I'll take this link and I'll paste it in the issue. And when we get to designing the error code, we can work together and gather all the common errors that we've seen and start from there.
Yeah, I think so. And regarding the error from the local registry on Minikube, I think this is another case, and we can definitely use maybe an FAQ or troubleshooting guide to help users get started on those local cluster and local registry.
Do we, in the Ratify repo, do we have any documentation on setting up any clusters?
I have a guide writing on the hack markdown, and I shared maybe 1 or 2 days ago. In that guide, I was suggesting users using Minikube, as Minikube might be the most popular local Kubernetes distribution. Yeah, I can submit a PR to add that guide. It is a guideline for running Ratify Gatekeeper Kubernetes from scratch.
Ratify Kubernetes. Sorry, what's the third one?
Ratify Kubernetes and OPA Gatekeeper. I mean.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be great. So the suggestion that Akash posted, I guess the next step is, Feynman, you'll try these out and then update your doc accordingly and then submit a PR to the Ratify repo.
Yeah, actually in that guide, I was changed to use GitHub container registry, and it works well. So I think I will add a section to tell users how can they, there's a workaround to using local registry with Minikube when they are running Ratify on a local cluster.
Yep.
Yeah, I will document it and submit a PR to add those guidelines.
Yep, thank you. That'll be helpful for anyone that's trying to set up a local cluster.
Yeah, Sajay is suggesting K3s. As you can see, I also tried Ratify on K3s, and it seems another issue from K3s. It is still,
I checked with Ralph from WASM, and folks. Like what's the adoption rate and how is K3S doing? And it seems like there's a good following for that. And it's under the CNCF bucket. So whether we should write the example on K3S versus kind or Minikube is something that we should discuss. I don't think we can write for everything. I mean, it's good if we can write for everything, but being realistic and pick one.
Sounds good. We'll start somewhere and then we can always add to our documentation once there's the need.
Yeah, actually, I had also tried Ratify on K3S, and it seems the similar networking issue with using local registry on K3S, and I added those error logs in the same issue.
Sorry, Feynman, which issue? What's the issue number?
Can you switch to your the second tab? Yeah, you can scroll up a little bit. Scroll up. I added 2 pieces of error logs from which is from Minikube, and another is from K3S. As you can see, the error message.
Akash, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so I just want to reinforce what I think Sajid, you mentioned it too, but in my opinion, this we should definitely have a guide, but maybe we should separate this out from a long guide where, hey, this is how you set up Ratify with it. We should have a guide where it's like, how do you set up a local registry on a Kubernetes cluster with Minikube or K3S? Because in my opinion, it's not like a Ratify specific issue. It's a prerequisite of Ratify. So I don't know if we want to have 3 different guides for 3 different types of local Kubernetes distributions. And maybe there's already a guide out there that already has this that we could point our users to. But if the rest of the people think it's useful to have our own guide in-house, then maybe that's fine. But I just thought in terms of ownership area, I don't know how much we have control over that. So
Yeah, I think if there is already a guideline on K3S or Minikube, we can definitely point those links on Ratify. I think this might be the similar networking issue on K3S.
yeah, from the error, it sounds like it's probably going to be something similar. I personally haven't used K3S and I will try it out, but I think it's going to be the same issue where you need to set up the correct routing between the your host computer versus the cluster.
Yeah, so I think when I did the CSI driver, it's an interesting experiment to be able to wire up all the host names properly, because the local host is what the Ratify pod would try to access it with localhost, but localhost doesn't resolve. So we need to be able to specify the image using whatever image we're going to deploy. So we need to figure out how Containerd or whatever the runtime that's using it is going to resolve that. We need to be able to resolve it in the same way. And that could be a little challenging. I think it's worth kind of going down that route. I'm interested and I can help on that if you want, Akash. I think it's good to get this sorted out if that's the way people want to do it. But is this a priority? No, right? This is not something that we would kind of block release on.
Yeah, this is not something we block our release.
Okay.
It's just for
Good.
it's not a high priority. It's just another use case when users running. Yeah.
No, I do this quite often. So it's I'm more than happy to have this solved with common documentation.
Yeah,
Is
I
his
think it's
setup very unique to Ratify interacting with
No,
like a local cluster?
no, it's a common problem across. So the Kubernetes runtime needs to access the local cluster. So when you do like an image resolve or an image pull, that's already going to give you like, this is the image, this is the path, this is the target. Ratify needs to be able to use the same resolution path or the same way the resolver works for basically how the gatekeeper gets the call right from the API server. And then I think we need to kind of be the admission webhook gets a call with one DNS, and that same DNS needs to be resolved the same way in Ratify. So it's a common problem. But this has got nothing to do with the Ratify. It's funny, but there's a lot of configuration outside that people might get kind of like hit. For example, the screen is clearly seeing that localhost 5001. There's nowhere Ratify can resolve localhost 5001 unless you have configured that. And I think one thing that might be interesting is the sample will have to change from, you will Docker push maybe with localhost 5001, but that will not work inside the cluster. So we need to kind of figure out how each cluster has a way of, for example, Kind has a local registry plugin. I don't know what Minikube does, but I think Minikube will also have something similar where they might have an annotation that enables the routing, and that sets it up as a internally for the cluster. K3s might have something similar. Yeah, but if we can agree on one platform that people want to run, then maybe it's okay. I would check with Ralph if K3 is the common theme, or if Minikube is better, or whichever works.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to have some guidance since we have run into this ourselves on our documentation, just to reduce the friction in trying out Ratify. Moving to the, before we move on to the discussion, there's one open PR from the AWS signer documentation. Do we know what's the status on 875? Okay, so I see it's pending review. Have a look what the changes. Since we don't have a, well, none of us have a AWS description, is the way we review this just to kind of look and see that briefly looks correct? Or do we actually want to try these commands out?
I don't think we need to verify those steps from our side, but we have another maintainer, Jimmy from AWS. Would you tag Jimmy for reviewing this guide?
I think Jimmy stepped down or is stepping down. So yeah, that's Susan, you brought this up too. Who would be his replacement going forward?
Yeah, long term. Sajid, do you have more information?
No. Finish your thought. Sorry, I shouldn't have
Oh,
spoken.
I was just thinking like for this PR, we can still ping Jimmy to see if it's okay to review it. But for the long-term maintainer, I wasn't sure, Sajid, if we had a plan on finding a new maintainer from AWS.
I was hoping we could maybe reach out to Samir or Byron and figure out if they want to step up. Because Byron's already done a couple of PRs and he's aware of the, or they are aware of the situation. It'd be good if somebody.
I can contact Byron. I've been conversing with him previously.
Okay, cool.
Maybe you can just post in a Slack channel and ping Jimmy. And if he doesn't have any time, we can just merge CPR. And it's not like code change, it's just like dot
Yeah.
update.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
that's true.
So the two PR we're tracking, they're on track for RC5. So me and Binbin will be able to wrap them up this week. I'm just trying to think, like, should we give any private, like pre-build sort of bits for Xinghe to try out for validation? I think he's waiting on this release. Is that right, Xinghe?
Yes, in fact, it is the MCR images. MCR image release is waiting for RC5. But it's glad to hear that we might have we are possible have fixed on third rotator and workload identity in RC5 or later.
Sorry, what's the question?
Sorry, a quick question, not a push. Will third rotator or Azure workload identity refresh in RC5 or later version?
Oh, they will both. The plan is to merge these PRs into main branch, and then we'll release RC5 from main. But I'm just wondering, do you want to do any private validation before we do the actual releases RC5, just to make sure that the bits looks good to you?
Sure, I can.
Like we can build a private image for you to try.
Should I make the verification after the two PRs merged?
Yeah. I think that'll be great. So I'll let you know once we've merged the changes, and then we can build like a, I think we have a workflow to build like a one-off image for you to try, and I'll be in touch.
No problem. Thank you. I can also build it from main.
From main. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Cool. That's everything on our presentation discussion list. Anything else people want to discuss? All good? Cool. Okay, we'll continue with the RC5 release then. And yeah, I'll see everyone next week. Take
Thank you.
care.
Thanks.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.